What is the current definition of masculinity and femininity?
If women had stayed in their place, it would have been easier for men to stay in their place, but nothing like that happened.
People are saying men are becoming more feminine, which is making more feminine masculine.
Turning genders against each other is a really dangerous phenomenon. Are there male behaviors that are toxic? Yes.
Is there such a thing as toxic femininity?
Of course there is.
Studies shows women prioritizing career and self-growth over traditional roles.
Because this shift is not what men asked for. It's what women asked for. Women have gained, men have lost. You think they're happy? No.
Hey Elaine.
Hello, Anas.
How are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
Or should I say, how are you really doing?
Actually, I'm really doing very well.
Okay.
These days, yeah.
I wanted to split, Elaine, our talks. One was about aging, which I think was a very important topic on its own and be respected on its own. And this one will play a lot into masculinity and femininity. And I want to start with some stats on men, because I know you did some courses or something specifically into what was
the psychology?
The psychology of men?
Of men.
Okay, okay, lovely. So, okay, I'm going to read these stats. 54% of men have seen their fathers cry. That's one of two. 97% of polled people have said that expectations for male behavior have changed over the past decade. 55% said crying in front of others would make them feel like less of a man. 1 in 4 UK males aged 16 to 29 believe it is harder to be a man than a woman, and a fifth of those who have heard of him now look favorably on the social media influencer, such as Andrew Tate, and the polling was around 3,600 people. Interesting. Studies shows women prioritizing career and self-growth over traditional roles. For example, 72% of millennial women in the US say financial independence is a top life goal. This is from Forbes. The last stat I have is studies show that traditional notions of femininity and masculinity are evolving, particularly in younger generations. In some regions, a growing focus on shared responsibility is in caregiving, and economic contributions reflects shifting attitudes. So I have just a bunch of questions, but I think they will stir some topics. So the first one I wanted to ask, and they're different, right? What is toxic masculinity? It's a very trendy word now. Very. So yeah, but I wanted to ask you.
I don't really like that phrase because it throws all men into a bucket, and that doesn't seem, that's not correct, and it's not accurate in any way. Are there male behaviors that are toxic? Yes. But there are certain behaviors that are toxic, and they are only done by certain kinds of men. That's being forever, and likely will be forever. There are also toxic women.
Yeah, that was my second question. Yeah. Is there such a thing as toxic femininity?
Of course there is. Just doesn't happen to be a sort of trendy word at the moment, but of course there is. And I would would rather say that there's toxic behaviors in both genders, played out in different kinds of ways. But, you know, this gender divide that is now sort of a topic all over the place, especially here in America, there's a lot of gender polarization, which I don't think is very helpful to anybody, really. But it's good for sound bites, and it makes for dramatic stories. So, you know, that's how it goes. What I would say is that in some of your statistics, the truth is the gender roles have radically changed over the last 30 to 40 years. Radically. And people are, both men and women, are struggling with what does that actually mean? What does it mean in relationship to each other? What does it mean in terms of one's own individual development? All sorts of stuff like that. And women have one kind of struggle individually. Men have a different kind of struggle with this change. And then relationships are highly affected by all this. I think that when women massively moved into the workforce and repositioned their lives where they either took on two jobs, being a homemaker and caregiver of children and a working person, or they chose not to have children because they didn't think they could do two jobs. All of that altered everything about traditional life. Women aren't at home the way they used to be, and they're very much in the workplace. So where does that leave men? Traditionally, men were the warriors, they were the breadwinners, they were the authority in the family. The patriarchal system was that males protected females and were superior to females. And within 40 years, most of that got upended. And now we're all very confused about what's where. And especially men are confused. They are no longer often seen as the authority in the family. They are seldom the only breadwinner. And they're not sure what their role in relationships are, or even in the world. I mean, I read some statistic the other day that, you know, boys are undereducated. Girls are going to school far longer and more successfully than boys. Many men are not finding work that is satisfying anymore, because the workplace is so different than not because of women, but just because of technology, and the world has changed so much in 40 years that men find themselves without sort of a place that feels like work, that's right for them. And I think that many men feel really displaced in all of this transition. the suicide rate in men is way higher than women. We all know that the gun violence is massive. There's a lot of very unhappy men. And toxic is not the right word. Bad behavior is toxic, but really unhappy human beings are not toxic. They're just unhappy human beings. And because this shift is not what men asked for. It's what women asked for, but it's not what men asked for. So what are they going to do with it?
It's a very branched topic. I mean, it's confusing on which angle to start with, because it's one thing that the economics of a society have changed and the roles, and life is expensive. One salary is not enough. So education, degrees, financial independence, like we read, those I think are a lot of important decisions that have done to accommodate the current world we're in. But psychologically, we're still wired for God knows the thousands of years we've been wired for before that. So like you said, the last 40 to 50 years, maybe it's been a radical shift in literal sense, but psychological sense, I don't know how adapted we are to that.
We're not. I don't think that either men or women have adapted totally to this whole thing, to this big shift. I mean, if you ask women what they want in their life, they're often very confused about what to say, because they do still want to have children. They still do want to have a marriage. They still want a career. It's called wanting everything. And you know, if you ask men what they want in their life, it's very hard for them to answer. So we haven't adapted. We're kind of struggling, and you know, some people are kind of making it up as they go as best as they can. But you know, if I think men are often in a very no-win position in a way, because if you know, if they are not a good breadwinner, if they're not successful, if they're not enough feminine to be able to cry, if they're not a participating father, they're actually shunned. It's not easy to find a partner. And so, like, a lot of boys, young men, are sitting on the couch doing video games.
Big time.
And they've withdrawn from life because they can't see how they can win. They don't know, they can't see the way forward. Partly, you know, I mean, it's the transition itself that's creating lots of this chaos, but also men have very few role models, because traditionally their fathers are often not very, very available, so they don't, and their fathers possibly live that other life, the traditional life, so they have no clue what their son has to face. And you know, there are very few male teachers in schools. So often boys don't really know who to look to figure out what being a man means, except from some video game or some fictionalized version. So, you know, for many years, women judged themselves against a photograph in a magazine and determined whether they were worthwhile or not worthwhile compared to that photograph. And now we have men kind of comparing themselves to some sort of fictionalized male, generally who is violent, generally who is
has a cigar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gets the girl.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a very peculiar time in history.
This is an interesting phenomena, right? You have, and I think we're not talking about it enough, so I hope this is just one drop in this ocean, right? You have a lot of young men who are antisocial, maybe because the social skills have been void because they got into video games and they got into social media, and that didn't build their social skills with the opposite gender. If they're attracted to girls, they just don't know how to talk to them or hang out, or even maybe with their male friends. They just don't know how to build these bonds and brotherhood and play sports like we used to. We didn't have entertainment. Like literally,
Yeah.
Even our video games are not that addictive, so you play them for a bit and then you go back outside. So you had to be forced into building bonds in the neighborhood, and you play games and you play team sports and all of that, and mingle also with the opposite gender, so you start even talking to them and building your social game, right? So now you have this young teenager who knows he has no chance with the girl. Her standard is a certain standard and he doesn't have the self-esteem. So what happens is they start to get attracted to these social media figures who are criticizing women or making fun of them and saying, treat women this way or treat women that way, and that becomes trendy. The point I'm going to talk maybe for a stretch and then I just want to listen. So it's a phenomena, like when people are hating on a Andrew Tate or a Trump or X or Y, any kind of character, right? That is deemed alpha, that is deemed strong, or whatever imagery we have around the masculinity image. I don't think you should be really hating so much on the player, you should be hating on the game. They say don't hate the player, hate the game. The game is flawed. You have to ask yourself, why are they becoming popular when they say that specific sentence? Because they said another 300 sentences in the same interview. Why is everybody latching onto this, and why is that clip going viral? And why are young teenage boys really into that sentence? That's the question. So, but then those characters, whether they're influencers or celebrities or whatever, they realize, when I talk about undermining women or doing this, it picks up.
Yeah.
So the question is, why is it picking up? And I think that's what we need to be really addressing is, why are these young boys all following and attracted to men who display these certain sentences, or even the good side? I don't want to even talk about Andrew or Donald Trump or anybody in a critical only way, because they have some positives to them and they have some probably negatives to them, like all of us. So I don't mean it in that way. I mean, if Andrew Tate has a very well-read mind, wow, that's pretty cool for a man. I think you should learn that from him. But if he speaks bad about women, okay, that's X. You see what I mean? And I think I don't want to do what you said. I don't want to label people just as toxic masculinity, because I'm sure some of these people are great businessmen, or maybe good fathers, maybe good brothers. I don't know. It's a mix of traits, right? But this is my issue, is where are we in this world where these young guys that don't have the social skills anymore, the confidence, are losing out because of video games? And is it what you said? Is it the roles being confusing now? A man doesn't know how to be a man anymore, or what is the right way? Is it the man is a responsibility, or is he macho and he beats people up and bullies people? So it's a big topic, as you can see. It's a bit all over.
Yeah, and I think that when people look for very simple answers to very complicated things, this polarization of, if this boy says, it's women who are actually the problem, it's not me, it's her. So we other each other, and we create these polarizations that actually just make the problem worse. I mean, what we really need to do is to truly understand why this boy is, or this young man is feeling so lost. And, we have to look at the education system that is failing him. Why is it serving girls so well and failing boys so badly? What's going on with that? We have to ask that question. We have to ask the question of, when boys are being raised primarily by females, what is this doing to their masculinity? What are they to understand? How can they learn masculinity? It's a learned thing. I mean, it isn't maybe at some caveman level, there might be sort of the gatherer, the hunter, and the gatherer. Okay, fair enough. There's probably some base to that. And there is no question that women still want that home fire to burn. I mean, there's a lot of us that remain very, very not just traditional, but we have deep instincts as human beings. But this is so convoluted right now that we're turning, instead of being able for young women to be empathetic with young men and vice versa, we're telling people to hate each other. Girls are being told men are idiots. And young boys are being told women are, this, that, the other thing, and whatever. And this turning genders against each other is, I mean, there's racism, there's sexism, there's all kinds of stuff. There's lots of isms, but this one is a really dangerous phenomena. And I think that many things are being written about masculinity at the moment, and there's lots of questions and very few answers at the moment, because we have to pull kids into the world, and into a world where they can where they're curious about the other gender, not judging of the other gender. Everybody's very quick to judge that it's this other guy's fault that this big mess is on, instead of really kind of digging into it. And I mean, you're right. There's one of the things that I think we know about the masculine gender is they are more action oriented. And so, schools try to sit kids down, and if you're a kid that is, you immediately have ADHD and you are immediately given a drug, and this is huge with boys. Maybe we're just forgetting that boys are boys and they hate sitting still, and that we're not helping them by giving them Ritalin and calling and saying they have ADHD and mild Asperger's and this and that, all the names that we're throwing around. This is not a way to deal with two generations at least of young men who are withdrawing from the society. I think we have to go to war with this for sure.
It's just, It's quite confusing, I think, when we talk about masculinity and femininity, what is the current definition of masculinity and femininity? Because I don't even know how to answer that.
We don't have a definition at this moment. We have adjectives like toxic. We have name calling. There's always plenty of names that women are called. The name calling is, but to actually say what is masculinity, I have no clue. I mean, I don't think we know now. Women going into the workforce was in order to gain independence, to gain full adulthood, and to be able to develop one's own skills and brain.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the reason that this happened to men, but it's a factor that if women had stayed in their place, it would have been easier for men to stay in their place, but no, nothing like that happened.
I think, because I talk to a lot of people also, Elaine, and sometimes I listen to the female that will say, she's career oriented and she has reached a point that if she gets married, she gets married. She doesn't get married, fine. She doesn't care maybe about kids, and it's her right and her choice. And then you meet the 20-year-old something, let's say 25, 28, who says, yes, I'm educated. Yes, I have my master's degree. I've had my one corporate job or two, but my goal is to find a man and be a good housewife. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, fair play.
Sure.
So, but you see the contrast? Like, it's a huge contrast. If you go 100 years ago, it was probably only none. It would have been like, I just become adulthood,
yeah.
And then
there would have been 0.25% of women who would say, I want my own life, I want my own career. There would have been a minute percentage. And now I don't know what the percentages are at all.
And it's tricky. Like, you listen to women who went the approach of corporate and then they reach 48 and they're like, I wish I invested in a family.
Absolutely.
So I feel it's this intrinsic force of nature that it's pushing you just to, reproduce and have your own family, because it's just genetic in all of us. We want to do it. But then there's the perception of what your life should be. So this corporate woman who becomes, and I was reading a stat on this, like a lot of very talented corporate women, they have, I wish I can find the study, but they reach a certain crossroad or a certain turning point. Let's say when they're, I don't know, I'll make it up, let's say 40, when they're reaching partner level, they don't want to be a partner anymore. Like, they reach saturation of ambition and they're like, what did I just waste my life on? I wasted it on titles and whatnot, but I completely neglected my family. I completely neglected making my own family. And some of them get into a crisis, like a midlife crisis, that what did I do? My other friends built their own families, their kids are healthy, they're going to college, and I invested too much to a corporate that doesn't care back. Maybe I should have left it for a guy. So they start to get into that dilemma, and I listen to that. So, and I guess men too. Men of them, some of them are just lazy. Like, they're so happy being stay-home dads or playing video games, and I don't think they're naturally the most talented caregivers. There are exceptions to the rule, but it's just the roles are so confusing. You don't even know what to teach your kids.
I think the thing is that, I mean, I agree with you that women, some women are glad of the decisions they've made about careers. Others say, oh, I didn't lead a balanced enough life. It's about balance. I think there's a lot of this.
I think that's the
balance.
Keyword, yes.
And, there are stay-at-home fathers that enjoy the job and things like that. But eventually they too say, look, I got to have more than this. Because kids grow up and what do you do? And you're staring at the wall. And so all stay-at-home fathers that I know have met have eventually had to face right into, like, I got to get myself going in a career, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So but it is about a balanced life. And I don't know if we're just not really teaching children that balance is everything. Do everything, do what you want, but keep it balanced. Like, don't be putting all your eggs in one basket, because you'll regret that at some point. But the thing is that it takes a lot of maturity to throw all the balls in the air and keep them up there.
What do you mean?
To be a good active father at the same time as you have a good career,
It's very tough.
at the same time as you have a personal life where you hang with your friends. It's not easy to have a balanced life.
Not at all.
And when things were very clear cut, and this, that gender did this and this gender did that, you didn't have to have so many balls in the air. But now that everybody does everything, you really do have to throw the balls in the air. And
I feel bad also, Elaine, for a lot of the women. So when a man is busy, and too busy even for the household, it's kind of celebrated.
Yeah.
Or even if not celebrated, not condemned. If a woman becomes a career woman and she just has to travel for 2 weeks for a business trip, her mother, her grandmother, her auntie, the society, everybody's like, you neglected so there's so much shaming, there's so much guilt. So now I'm not a woman, but I can only imagine she's thinking, okay, you want me to excel in my career, but you don't want me to go on this business trip. You want, like, what to do and how much of?
Well, that's the thing. And it's your generations that are the first people that are attempting to do some of this stuff. This is new territory. And so there's no rule books at all. There's no guidebooks. And certainly older generations condemn it all and say, you're not doing that enough, or you're not doing that enough, or you're not doing something enough for sure. But they didn't have to live this life. They lived a different life. I mean, traditional life had its problems. It also had reasons why it worked. This has problems, but it also can work. It's just that we're just new at the game yet of how to do this. And men have lost a lot. Women have gained. Men have lost. You think they're happy? No. Why would they be?
Maybe some men are happy. They're doing less. Okay, so this is a recurring topic that's being discussed online, I would say, and probably in circles, where there is this balance where people are saying men are becoming more feminine, which is making more feminine masculine. So a woman has to be more in her masculine energy because the man is now not as masculine and he's more in his feminine energy. And it's a big confusing statement because, okay, we understand if a man is not your shoulder, if a man is not your serenity, if a man can't bring stability in your life, or he's your backbone, now you don't feel he's reliable. Even I'm talking about the most basic chores. Like, your guy is useless or lazy, and the little things of the house, whether it's the electricity bill, whether it's emotional, regulating the house and calming everybody down and being a good authority figure or whatever. If he's not doing that, now the woman is like, okay, I'll fix the table and I'll fix this and I'll do this and I'll take your mother and, right? So now she's assuming more of what we deem more masculine. Now the man, if he's complaining all the time and crying all the time, now they're saying, okay, he's more in his feminine, now I have to take care of him. So there's this big topic of, like you said, they want the man to cry, but then if you cry too much, we don't like you. If you don't cry at all, we also don't like you. Okay, how much do I cry? Like once a month, once a year? You know, what's the portion that we like? And a woman who's not as dependent, you're like, oh, she's too dependent. Oh my God, that's so annoying. But then she becomes independent and you're like, oh, too independent. You're not a guy.
I know.
It's very confusing.
It is.
So this is a big topic that I wanted to throw out.
And you know, then there's these sort of assumptions. That one of them is that women are emotional and men are more logical. I mean, that's the assumption that you're starting with there. And there's a real question that I have about that, because that is socialization. Men and women have the same emotions. They express them differently. And they're always going to express them differently, as far as I can tell. I mean, I don't think you can really change everything. So, you know, it isn't that crying is a measure of masculinity or femininity. There are plenty of women who are not criers, and then there are some that weep constantly. There are men who never cried once in their life, and that does not make them cold men. It just means they don't express that particular feeling with tears. I think we need to be a little bit careful about the assumptions that certain things are feminine and certain things are masculine. Because I think there are highly logical women and highly illogical women. I think there are highly logical men and really illogical men. I don't think it's a
gender thing.
It's a gender thing. But society has, societies in the traditional model very much told the story of, wrote novels about, you know, the strong stoic man who never shed a tear and the damsel in distress that he rescues. I mean, that's a human story that has been told forever. So, but these are stories. They're not really necessarily the lived experience of a human being. And what's fascinating, and I think really terrific, is that we don't have to live life by some story. We can make life what we want to make it. If one wants to be, I think we were talking the other day about, you know, sometimes very logical men want to be really silly. Sometimes really emotional women can really think through a problem big time. Let's just not put people in baskets and, you know, label genders as this and that, because I think that, again, that adds to this polarization, this other kind of thing. And then the fear that a man is more feminine because he expresses his feelings like in not only he expresses his feelings beyond yelling at people.
And anger. Anger is masculine.
Yeah.
It's so funny, huh?
Well, it's not.
Why is that even a good thing?
Well, it isn't even a thing.
You know, like,
it's just a thing that we've told ourselves. I mean, you don't think women don't get angry? They do. It's just that somehow, you know, it's been, there's the story is that the man who is hurting expresses anger. Okay. Sometimes, lots of times, not always. And if we said, well, I'm going to give this man permission to express his feelings with anger, with tears, with withdrawing into self, with running around a sports field to wear it off, whatever it is, you know, just as long as it's healthy and it doesn't hurt anybody else. What's what? There's no reason that whole range can't exist.
It's this job description of each gender that's not being fair to somebody who wants to express it otherwise. So if we say men don't cry or boys don't cry, it's such a popular sentence, right? And from when he's young, like, be a man, stop crying, be a man, stop crying. You're just teaching him, just don't express, because it seems like this is your natural expression, but that doesn't fit the mold of what a boy or a man should do. So I'm going to shame you and I'm going to ridicule you. And it happens in schools and it happens in houses.
Of course it does.
Now this young man becomes angry, suppressed, because that was his default expression. And you just blocked it because it doesn't fit the mold. And the same for a woman. If a woman wants to, skateboard 50 years ago, 30 years ago, they'll be like, what are you doing? But what if she's a great skateboarder and that's what she enjoys? You see, it's funny, but then you're shamed. As soon as you are out of this box, you're shunned or you're made fun of because it doesn't fit.
Well, I guess one of the fascinating things to me is, I'm so glad I'm alive still, is that we're breaking those boxes. Now, we can break them and, and then we can sort of try to put the pieces back together as best as we can. Or we could go like, no, it's good that the box is broken, but we do have to create some other structure. We have to create something where people have a bit of guidelines, and they don't have to be this tight. We don't have to have as tight the box doesn't have to be this little, this big. It can be like that big, which allows for more humanity for both and more.
Well, just wait a moment. New York, continue.
More fullness for, it allows for a person to live a fuller and a higher quality life because the box is not so small.
I also don't think we're binary. It's not 0 or 1. It's not black or white. It's shades of gray. Shades. I'm not like, I didn't say there's so many colors. I said shades of gray. There's a nice in between where you can still follow the nice guidelines of a human ethic, the nice attributes that you have as a gender. Okay, a man's physique, he can run faster, so we celebrate that. A woman's empathy and intellect and is better here. Okay, you give her that. And you can flow. You don't have to, it's not rigid.
Yeah, I think, rigidity is very comforting because everybody knows then what the rules are. In a fluid environment like we're in right now, where the rules are a little bit all over the place, it's very uncomfortable. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean it's bad, just uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And embracing the uncomfortableness and going like, boy, I've had to think about this masculine, feminine thing. In the old traditional model, you wouldn't have had to think about it once in your life.
Which is also not good, because you need to challenge it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that there's value in the fact that we have to get uncomfortable and get mixed up and not sure where we're going, and in order for us to be able to really take on moving society in ways that nurture everybody, both men and women and children. And, there was one of the things that I learned in this course is that, and I don't know how, there's studies that show that mothers treat male infants differently than female infants. And these studies show that actually boys are often very undercared for. Girls are much more protected. They're much more hovered upon. over, and boys are kind of told to go off and, you know, as you say, if you hurt your knee, too bad, you're fine. And, or if you, so boys are encouraged to be more independent more quickly. And so they're much more restless. I mean, you can't hold, I mean, little boys want to go everywhere and be everywhere and run around all over the place. But they encounter lots of difficulties very quickly because there's no mother hovering on top as much as female
Interesting.
toddlers. I think that's kind of an interesting thing, isn't it?
That too.
And so that's how much we expect independence and boys to be tough. I think that's just fascinating. So now I'm looking around at all the people I know who have, you know, infants, and watching whether that's still happening.
It seems quite legit. Like I could see it. It's because you want to groom them into that role.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to make them a mummy's boy.
Yeah.
And so you shoo them out the door as fast as you can, but then they're actually undercared for.
Wow.
Which makes them more vulnerable to not being able to deal with emotional regulation. You know, parents will say to female children, you know, tell me what's wrong. You know, did something bad happen to you? Blah, blah, blah. This is not said as often to boys. I mean, I'm not saying it's not said ever.
No, to a high degree, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before I go to this one, I think one of the points that you also kind of touched on is the polarization. I think it's time that we realize it's a losing war if you attack the other gender or criticize or compete. I don't even want to use the word compete. It's not a competition. I think we do need each other as genders. You know, I know people don't like, we complete each other, but in this biological world of human beings and other creatures, we do need each other to build families, to whatever. So there is a beauty to that. And once we accept that we're a team, that we're supposed to coexist, and it's not a competition who's better and who's smarter and who's more empathetic, but no, let's figure out this new modern world and how can I support you and you support me, because the world is definitely better when we were getting along rather than judging or criticizing each other.
Absolutely. You know, and the other thing is too that in the traditional model, partnerships didn't break up very often because women did not have options about that. And so, you know, in that model, men criticized women, women criticized men, and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't disturb the relationship. I mean, they might have hated each other, but
it didn't break up.
They didn't break up. Now, that's not how, you know, both men and women have very low tolerance for this kind of flaws in the other person. We have very low tolerance for someone's less than perfectness. And so obviously we know divorce is huge. And again, that is partly, it's not that I feel that divorce is an appropriate response to many marriages. But going into a marriage to raise kids, again, this is terrifying for a lot of men. Terrifying. And in most cultures, men basically lose their children Women get custody, and the father is, the outsider. Might provide money, but that's it.
Mm.
Now, I think in your culture, this is better. I think many fathers stay much more involved with their children, and do act as a role model for them. But maybe some don't. I don't know.
Okay, let's see what else we have. This, I don't know if we covered. How does masculinity today compare to past generations?
Well, it would seem to me that in past generations, men had a lot of the responsibility, but they had a lot of the power.
Mm.
It was, they were the breadwinner, but they were also the head of the household, and what they said went. This shift in family dynamics is very big, where it's very confusing about who's boss now in a family, very confusing,
Mm-hmm.
and who's boss of what, or of anything. And I think that I don't know if men feel emasculated because that role of provider is becoming more and more and more challenging to do, sometimes impossible to do. And that's a big shift.
Mm-hmm.
Really, so that society needs to make sure that, or to help men find purpose in their life, even if it's not in the traditional provider role. They have to find some way to feel good about themselves.
I think what was seen as emasculating, is that the right way of saying it?
Mm-hmm.
Should be redefined, because otherwise everybody will feel like a loser.
Yeah.
Can men show vulnerability without being seen as weak?
Showing vulnerability is the most courageous thing in the entire universe that anybody can do. It takes enormous courage to be vulnerable. To remain hidden, to not share the depth of oneself is actually pretty safe. So, I mean, from a psychological standpoint, men being able to show vulnerability, in my mind, shows that they are truly masculine because they are truly strong.
Mm. Nice. Is social media pressuring men and women to fit into a certain world?
If it wasn't magazines, and if it wasn't TV, and if it wasn't the movies, and if it's not, of course, yes, it's creating all these, stereotypes but the difficulty, it seems to me, is that we've always been influenced by outside forces of communicators, of whether it was, as I say, in magazines or whatever it is. But social media is different. because it's in your face 24 hours a day. And they're, you know, like a person at my stage can read a magazine, watch a TV show, go to a movie in a movie theater, and spend an hour and a half on Facebook without even trying. But many young people don't actually do all those. They just do that one. So that's why it's so, it's creating, it is the culture creator at this point. And that's a tough one.
Very much so. That's why we're trying to use it in a good way.
Yes.
What's your advice, Elaine, for the men and women in today's modern world?
Try to be more understanding and empathetic, less judgmental. Don't judge somebody because what they wore on the first date or some stupid thing. Don't judge somebody because their text messages don't quite suit your style. Stop judging. Start listening. Start really listening, and really have an open heart to the fact that that we don't always find the right relationships and combinations with a big spark. Sometimes they're like a seed in a garden. They take a while to grow. And we're so impatient now. So I guess I would say gather up a bit of patience for yourself and for the other gender. Nobody's got it figured out. Nobody. Don't think that it's you only that don't have it figured out. Nobody has it figured out. Try figuring it out together, because it's be amusing.
Well, thank you. That was so nice. I hope you enjoyed it.
It was very fun.